everyone, this is Mitchie, and welcome back to the Manic Manor podcast. Today we are going to dive right in to the urban legend that is La Llorona. So the story of La Llorona, otherwise known as the Weeping Woman, dates back over 500 years, and is a horrifying legend in many various cultures, but it's all centered around a woman who is grieving and brings about pain and misfortune to any who hear her cry. Now, depending on the story, her name varies, but many people use a common name of Maria, who was an absolutely beautiful but vain woman in some of the tales. Others, she was absolutely humble. Either way, she was beautiful and admired, and all the men in her village would gather from near and far to obtain her hand. Now, in some stories, the man who obtains her hand is a rancher, while others, he's a soldier or a conquistador. But the result is that she marries this man and has children. In this, the children are either given too much attention from her husband, or her husband becomes unfaithful, which causes her to be very scornful, and she decides to go into a fit of rage to take the one thing her husband valued the most, which in the tale is always the children. And of course, this means she ends up killing them. When she comes to, she is overwhelmed with regret and either tries her hardest to revive them, tries to get them back, because in some tales she's either physically drowning them or in others she's throwing them into the river. But the result is her children cannot come back, and she holds their lifeless bodies and cries out. When all fails, she becomes inconsolable, and she ends up killing herself via drowning or hanging and is found the next morning. The curse begins when the village hears the agonizing cries of a woman calling out, "Where are my children?" Now, when looked upon, people see a woman in a long white gown or a robe, probably a burial dress or her wedding dress, as she goes up and down the bank of the river. The tale goes that she is bound to the earth until she retrieves the souls of her lost children, and this is a punishment for what she has done, but the truth of it is she will never find her children's souls because her children were innocent and, of course, went on into the afterlife, and she is stuck, bound to the earth. The tale of La Llorona is prevalent in Latin American and Spanish-speaking communities. She is one of the most often orally spoken of urban legends in that tale. Depending on the regions where you listen to the tale, just exactly what or who she is will differ. To many people, she is believed to be a malevolent spirit, a harbinger, or cause of a family's misfortune when they hear her blood-curdling cry. There have been tales of her being a siren to lure men to turn on them for helping her, or curse them for, falling victim to her song. Either way, any chance meeting with her is a harbinger of doom. Now, to others, she is simply a mournful spirit who has lost her beloved children and is mourning for their return. Almost always, her description is that she is seen with long hair, she's crying, she's walking around massive bodies of water. The story has been told to children across Latin America, often to dissuade them from being out too late at night, or to be around big bodies of water that they could possibly get hurt or die in, or simply just to make sure that the children do not misbehave. There are some tales that will talk about if you misbehave as a child, that La Llorona will mark you and take you away from your family to replace her missing children with you. Other tales speak that she can be summoned in a seance-like environment, much like how you would call out for Bloody Mary or the Candyman from the movie series. But just where did her tale originate? One account believes the tale originated in Mexico as early as 1550, while there are others that say it comes from Spain and oral traditions that were passed on from there. Historians directly link her, though, to Aztec, or the earth goddess Coatlicue. I do apologize if I mispronounced that name, but to the Aztec goddess. But nobody is 100% sure exactly where this tale began, where her legend started. There's just the common thread that she is a woman cursed to walk the land for the sins that she committed in her life. It seems the most common said about her spirit is that it's vengeful, and anyone who crosses her path will meet her fury. However, even though she is listed as being an urban legend, there are people who truly believe that they have encountered her. They will talk about seeing a woman walking by herself, or they'll talk about hearing disembodied crying followed by a sharp scream, shriek, or wail. And sometimes these people say that they were even attacked by her. And because of this, there are stories that are all over the internet that you can read. I'll read some of the stories that I found online about the encounters with her. These come from a website called Legends of America, and I'll just be summarizing the stories just to, save on time. So the first story we're going to talk about is about a group of boys who decided that they were going to leave their parents' ranch after the parents had a massive fight. And as the boys were making their way down the dirt road, they were visited by this tall woman, and this woman, they said, had her face covered. She just mysteriously appeared in their seat while they were driving down the road, and she just remained silent until she uttered that she would see them again after they had an argument with their mother. Another story, this one's a little surprising, is where she seemed to be somewhat protective in the beginning, but then he starts to figure out that maybe she wasn't. So this is about a teenage boy who was out camping, and he had gone up to his cabin. When he opened it, he found that there was a strange man that was asleep in the bed that he was supposed to be asleep in. Now, he swears up and down he heard a woman who screamed at him, who he believes was La Llorona, to run, and as a result, he did run. Now, the protectiveness of it did seem to be short-lived. He said he was running, and had he not tripped and smashed his foot on a rock, he would have ran right off a cliff. So, it's not really sure if that was protective or it was manipulation so she could get her way and take a victim. Here is a third story. This involves some children in Mexico. Now, these children were told by their grandmother to go to the store. So they were walking to the store and they heard crying. They didn't pay much mind to the crying until they saw a woman out in front of them, and out of nowhere she started running towards them. But it wasn't the typical running. When they got a closer look at it, it looked like she was floating almost towards them. So the children, they panicked and made a beeline, bolting back to their grandmother's house. So they told their grandmother what had happened, and the grandmother gathered the children, and the children said that they prayed to God to make this woman go away, and the grandmother had said that she believed it was La Llorona. Another story that I have here is of an 8-year-old girl who believes she encountered La Llorona in her own home. So, while she was at home, she heard crying coming from her bathroom, and so she got curious, went to check it out, probably thinking it was her mother or someone, and when she went in there, there was nobody at first in the room. So she goes up to the sink because that's where she kind of hears this disembodied crying. So when she goes up there to the sink, her head gets shoved into it and the water turns on. So the woman, or the girl, is screaming for her mother, and when her mother come to her aid, she had to fight to pull her up, and she turned white as a ghost as she thought that it was La Llorona that was trying to take her away. So, very short episode, I do apologize for that, but this is what I have found on La Llorona. For a lot of people, they either grew up hearing about this tale or they watched the movie that is supposed to be somewhat tied into the Conjuring franchise. So if you guys have any information that you would like to put in about La Llorona, her legend, or if there's something that I got wrong or completely missed, please feel free to let me know. You can reach out at manicmanorpodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach out on Facebook and Instagram as well at Manic Manor Podcast, or comment on YouTube as well, Manic Manor Podcast. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and until the next one, I will see you. You guys have a wonderful week. Bye.